The Night Floaters. Some current news reports. Regina, Saskatchewan, 2019. A Regina man was almost drowned in the shallow waters of Lake Wascana after he was allegedly attacked by a horde of flying heads known as night floaters. Peter, who declined to give his last name, was riding home on his 10-speed after working the evening shift. "I know you're not really supposed to be in the park after midnight," he said, "but I figured it would save me about 10 minutes. I also figured it would be safer, as I would be out of traffic." That turned out to be a joke, but not a funny one. Peter was rounding the curve near the Regina Boat Club Memorial when he noticed some white shapes flitting through the trees near the Wascana Pool. "At first I thought they were birds, maybe owls. Imagine my shock when I suddenly realized they were disembodied human heads, just cruising through the air. Worse, they appeared to be eating insects, like they were bats. Gross." It was while Peter was observing the heads that he came under attack. They came flying down the incline there, out of the dark. I didn't know how many there were at first, but there was at least 3 of them, and one, a male, collided with me, and I went over into the water. I was stunned by the fall, but the water was damn cold, and that woke me up. Since the lake is only about 5 feet deep, I was able to stand up and get my head out of the water. I was going to climb out, but then the heads began dive-bombing me with wide-open mouths, trying to bite me. I've never seen so many damn teeth. Their jaws made loud snapping noises each time they tried to bite me. Peter had to keep ducking his head under the water to avoid his tormentors, 2 females and a male, and he soon began to tire. I was getting desperate when suddenly I saw a group of people on the path. I could see their reflective clothing. The group turned out to be a jogging class out for a midnight run. The heads vanished as the group neared, and Peter began to yell for help. I was able to crawl out and find my bike, which wasn't damaged. The runners thought it was pretty funny, but I was beyond giving a damn. Peter attempted to ride away with dignity, only to find the heads in aerial pursuit. They tried to follow me, but I got onto Albert and stayed on, riding right down the middle of the road. There was lots of traffic and street lights, so they had to give up. I don't think they want people to know they really exist, because then they can carry out their attacks with impunity. People don't believe and so won't defend themselves. Peter describes his tormentors as having thin, pale faces, haloed by shaggy, greasy hair. He says he plans to drive home from work in the near future. That was too close a call. Imagine drowning in stinky Lake Wascana. Floating heads, also known as night floaters or floaters, are an anomalous phenomena reported from various places in Canada and throughout North America. The name refers to the ability of certain individuals to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float at will. They are said to attack unsuspecting victims, biting them and sometimes even killing them. Flying heads that eat bugs are known in Japanese folklore and are mentioned in the works of occult writer Lafcadio Hearn. Postscript. Floating heads are also listed as suspects in a series of 9 drownings which have taken place along the Welland Canal in St. Catharines and Thorold, Ontario since 2013. Among the deaths were Mike Jolly, a worker at the local GM plant, who fell into the canal while riding his bike home at 1 a.m. on August 19th of last year. Jolly's bike was discovered alongside the canal, just north of Fredo's, a popular local restaurant. His death was tentatively ruled an accident. Oakville, Ontario, 2019. An Oakville resident claims to have had an encounter with a group of night floaters in Lions Valley Park in the early 1970s. Wesley, not his real name, says, "We heard that some chicks we knew were going to camp out with a youth group in the park, so we decided we would join them. The youth group had camped out in an area under the Dundas Bridge, near the site of the abandoned village of Proudfoot's Hollow. We rode our bikes up from town, past all the farmers' fields, rode up from town, past all the fields and the rows of sweet corn. It's hard to believe it's all gone, replaced with subdivisions. We got to the park after dark, by which time the kids had a big fire going, so we went over to join them, only to have the leaders, basically guys a few years older than us, tell us to bugger off. Politely, but still, bugger off. So there was nothing to do but sit around and listen to them having fun. We didn't have a tent or nothing, so all we could do is get into our sleeping bags and just lie there, and bitch about the older guys. Eventually, we fell asleep. I was awakened by my buddy Mick yelling, only to find this ugly face with really bad breath about an inch from mine and leering at me. I managed to get an arm out and swing at it, and when it moved back, I realized it was some guy's head, floating in the air. One of them night floater things I'd heard so much about when I was a kid. Then it was back, and I realized it was trying to bite me, bite my face, so I tried to get out of my sleeping bag and ended up rolling around on the ground. It must have looked pretty funny, but it wasn't very funny at the time. I started yelling for the other guys to help me, and that's when I realized we were all rolling around on the ground and crashing into each other. Somehow I got out and on my feet and started running towards the campfire, only to have the head flying right behind me, still chomping its jaws and trying to take a bite out of my ass. One of the camp leaders yelled at me to be quiet, so I wasn't too sorry when I ran through the camp, bringing a whole flock of heads with me. All hell broke out. There must have been a dozen of the heads, male and female, dive bombing all the campers. The girls were all screaming, the guys swearing their heads off. Hey, that's funny. Their heads off. And then guys were throwing burning logs at the heads, and there were sparks flying everywhere. I grabbed my bike and took off. Yeah, I know, cowardly, eh? But that's what I did. I just wanted to get away. I was bombing down the country roads towards town when I realized the same ugly head was right behind me. For whatever reason, the guy wouldn't leave me alone, and no matter how hard I pedaled my ass, he was on my ass and still trying to chomp my ass. I was yelling and swearing at it, but it wouldn't go away. He might have got me too, but then headlights flooded the road, and I crashed into a drainage ditch. The headlights belonged to an old 51 Chevy pickup, and, after giving me shit, the farmer guy drove me and my bike back home. I didn't tell him about the night floaters. I didn't tell anybody. They wouldn't have believed it anyways. My friends didn't talk to me for about 6 months because I took off on them. And as for the girls, I never got to first base with any of them. But I did learn that the night floaters really do exist. Downsview, Ontario, 2016. A Humber College student had an alleged encounter with flying heads or night floaters while working as a pizza delivery man. I worked for a family-run pizzeria in Downsview and had my share of dodgy deliveries over the years. But the one I had during the late summer of 2016 was so bad, so unbelievable, I haven't been able to talk about it. No one believes me. The student had to make a late-night delivery to a low-rise apartment near Finch and Dufferin when he had his strange encounter. I dropped off the pie and collected the money. No tip. And was heading back to my ride, which was parked at the end of the driveway, when this head swooped down out of the darkness and almost butted me. It was this ugly skank with a pointed nose and this gross hair that looked like she never washed it. I was so stunned I almost dropped the point-of-sale terminal, which I ended up using as a bat to keep her away. The student saw more flying heads coming to join his attacker. There was this kiddie park at the end of the street, by a ravine, and they seemed to be coming out of it. The student was unable to reach the safety of his vehicle, which was surrounded by flying heads. Instead, he ran back into the apartment building. I asked the guy if I could come inside, but he slammed the door in my face. Like I said, he was a cheap bastard, and instead of helping me, he hit me over the head with the pizza box. But the box gave the driver an idea. I put the hinged part over my head, so it gave my face and neck some minimal protection, and then I ran for it, using the point-of-sale terminal as a bat to keep them away from me. I don't know how I got in the car unharmed, but the box helped. When I looked at it later, I saw it was covered with tooth marks. As I hit the ignition, I could see 3 of the heads just sitting on the hood of their car, like they were decapitated or something. I couldn't really tell if they were male or female. They were all so dirty and hungry looking. Yeah, that's the right word, hungry. Hungry for blood or who knows what. The delivery man was also witness to another strange phenomena, a raccoon invasion. They came pouring out of the ravine, just like the heads. There must have been hundreds of them. I don't know if the events were connected or not, but I didn't waste any time getting out of there, I can tell you. The student told the pizzeria owner the customer had given him a hard time and asked not to deliver there in future. I hated to lie to the boss, but there was no way he would have believed what really happened. In fact, the business major found none of his friends believed him either. They all said that night floater stuff was just an urban legend, so I shut up. But then, the student was walking with his girlfriend along a trail by the Humber River on a cloudy afternoon when a flying head came out of the nearby underbrush and attacked them. It was a guy with long, greasy hair. I don't think it saw me at first, as I was a little distance back, looking at something. I think he just wanted to attack her, thinking she was alone. I had this big tree branch which I was using as a walking stick, so I came charging up, yelling and swinging it like a baseball bat. The head retreated into the nearby foliage, but followed the pair at a distance, leering and making raucous laughing sounds. After a tense 15-minute walk, they were able to reach their car and flee the area. Melissa was crying and practically hysterical. I kept saying over and over, "So do you believe me now? Do you believe me now?" She's believed everything I've told her since. Ha! Please subscribe to this channel for more accounts of the night floaters and their nefarious activities across Canada and around the world.